just talking briefly from her.
Mizmor David, Adonai ro'i lo echsar, bin odeh sheyarbitzeni, al mei menuchot Nafshi yeshovev, Yancheini v'maglei tzedek, Yancheini v'maglei tzedek, le'ma'an shemo, gam ki elech begaitz ha'mavet lo yirara, ki ata imadi, shivtecha umishantecha, heima yenachamuni. Ta'aroch lefanai, shulchan neged tzorerai, Tishanta Vashem Roshi Kosi Revaya, Ach Tov V'Chesed Yedefuni Kol Yemei Chayai V'Shavti B'Veit Adonai Le'orech Yamim. Adonai ro'i lo echsar, Adonai ro'i lo echsar.
A Psalm of David. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He guides me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou prepare a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
Thank you to Cantor Rosenbaum and Rabbi Foster for starting this service. This morning we are here to share words of praise, words of honor, words of gratitude and thanks, and words of love, as we recall with great affection a very special man. Today we say goodbye to Frank Ekstein, a beloved husband, a beloved father, a beloved grandfather, a beloved brother, a beloved uncle, son, and friend. Today is actually a minor holiday on the Jewish calendar. It is Rosh Chodesh, a time for new beginnings and the new month. And today we are saying goodbye to Frank. The family celebrated Kanahar his 93rd birthday just a month ago. And Frank lived a long life, a life filled with incredible struggle, unbelievable and unfathomable difficulties, loss and tragedy, but also a life filled with so much joy and so much love. And so perhaps it's fitting that today is Rosh Chodesh, a day when traditionally we are not supposed to be sad, but today when we are supposed to be happy. And through all the difficulties of his life, which we'll hear as a Holocaust survivor, as a man who personally built and established the state of Israel, fighting in the War of Independence, and a man who built this beautiful family, he lived with joy every single day and you live with gratitude. So perhaps again it is fitting that today is Rosh Chodesh, a day for celebrating. Our beloved Frank has departed from this world, leaving a good name, returning home in peace at the age of 93. We extend our deepest condolences to his family, to his daughters, to the apples of his eye, his girls, to Michelle and Lori, and Michelle's husband Adam, who was not just a son-in-law, but a son in love, and to the diamonds in his crown, his two grandsons, Jacob and David, those who made him a grandfather, and you were truly the lights of his life. Our beloved Frank now joins all those who have gone before, of course his beloved wife Hannah, who passed years before, his sister Michal, his parents Juliana and Mishka, all those killed in the Shoah, the Holocaust, and all those who have gone before. This morning we have two tributes from family, and first we'll call up his grandson, Jacob.
On behalf of my family, especially my mom and my Aunt Lori, and to my grandpa himself, thank you to everybody for being here, and for the people and family members and friends that are at home watching on the stream. He'd be happy to see everybody together and honored to have everybody together specifically in his memory as well. The lesson that my brother and I, and likely many others, and the countless people whose lives he touched, have learned from my grandfather is the best kind of lesson, one learned through observing and living alongside with him. Although he persisted and experienced some of the most difficult tragedies and roadblocks in his life, more so than many of us could even imagine, you wouldn't know it from being around him. In that regard, he taught us to be ever grateful and resilient, and most of all, to love life. No matter what it throws at you, from the most evil of tragedies to just a bad day or a small inconvenience, my grandfather's lesson to me, my brother, and all of us is not an abstract concept or a cliche, but a way of life. So in his memory, live happily and take joy and gratitude in every bit of it, like the rabbi said. It is my aim in life to keep my grandpa's memory and spirit alive every day. I say that quite literally. And eventually, God willing, to fulfill the promise I made to him alongside my brother David, to one day tell his story to our grandchildren over a Shabbat dinner table and share with them a piece of chocolate, some jokes, some dancing, just as he did with us so many countless times. I love you, Grandpa, and thank you for inspiring me and everyone around you more than you could ever know.
Now the second tribute is from Adam, his son-in-law and son-in-love.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you, everybody, for being here. If you don't mind, if you could silence your phones. I'm using my phone because that's where I wrote this. So, despite our different backgrounds, Ephra and myself, we had a lot in common. I'm going to keep this short as I've been instructed, so I'm not going to mention all the things we have in common. I'm also not going to say what Ephra meant to me. I'm not sure if he knew. I want to give you, for those, I think all of you knew him to some degree, and what I'm here to do is try to portray, give you a taste of what he was like. Certainly, I'm available later if anyone wants to ask about what he meant or what we had in common, but I feel obligated to mention certain aspects of him and what he was like. One of the things we did have in common is that we both have a sense of humor, different, but yet both offbeat and persistent sense of humor. I've come to learn recently, I think, that he had the same discussion with me as he's had with Jacob. With my background, the various aspects of my background, one of the things I had in common with him is a awareness of death, which is really an awareness of life and how precious life really is. It's taking me a little bit longer to get through this, I'm sorry. He would joke about life. He would joke about death. It was as far back as before his wife's funeral, maybe shortly thereafter. I had very specific instructions. I guess Jacob had too. Maybe not as specific. Which joke to tell at his funeral? And here we are. Even within our own culture and our own heritage, we have many different ways of practicing things. And I unfortunately have experienced tragedy, and I have learned the meaning of our heritage in far as that goes. And when he told me such a thing to tell a joke at his funeral, I pointed out the benefits of not doing so. He was pretty persistent, and he knew good things. However, although he was not a scholar, he was a righteous man. And he convinced me. I stopped short of arguing, and I said, okay. I'm sad to say that I forgot the exact joke he told me to tell, but he was very specific about it. And then, before his dementia took hold, I tried to verify what it was because I had forgotten. Lesson is, write down important things. I did convey to him, to his great pleasure, that I have taken some of his commonly told jokes and passed it along to my patients, much to their pleasure and much to their ease of their pain, which I believe is an important thing to do. So one joke is the patient comes to the doctor and says, "Doctor, I don't know what I'm going to do. It hurts, it hurts. Where does it hurt?" "It hurts here, doctor." "Oh?" It also hurts here." "Oh. And here. And here. What do I have?" "A broken finger." That was his pleasure to tell. I don't think he made that one up, though. The other one, I struggle with this one because it seems like telling jokes at his funeral would be not the thing to do, or anything that might be a questionable joke. And I thought a lot about skipping this one. But my heart tells me, I'm not sure, but I think this is the one he wanted me to tell. So I'm sorry in advance if it offends anyone. This is to honor my father-in-law. The patients at the doctor's. By the way, I'm almost done. Patients at the doctor's. My patients love this one. Doctor, what am I going to do? Every morning, like clockwork, I have a bowel movement. And the doctor says, that's great. All of my patients, I have a constipation clinic. Everybody here has problems with that. And that's great. What are you complaining about? You don't understand, doctor. Listen, doctor, I have a bowel movement every day at 7 o'clock sharp, every morning. That's beautiful. That's healthy bowels. You're going to be fine. It's good. Doctor, you don't understand. I have a bowel movement every day at 7 o'clock, but I wake up at 6:30. I messed it up. I'm sorry, Efra. The bowel movement happens at 6:30 and the patient wakes up at 7. I'm sorry, I'm more emotional than I planned. And in closing, one of the advantages of his many years, and Grandpa would want us to find the good in things and the way to laugh and be positive. One of the good things about his loss of memory, hearing, vision, is it gave us a chance to understand that he won't be with us forever, just in case we didn't know. And in keeping with his experience, language, culture, after surviving the war, he had become an Israeli, a founding member of Israel, being there before, during, and after the War of Independence. And what we say, as you might know, is we don't say goodbye. We say lehitraot. Goodbye for now. See you again soon. Connotation, I thought, is goodbye. When you're saying goodbye to someone, goodbye. Instead of saying goodbye, you're saying, I already miss you, as you're saying goodbye. Not later on when you're parted and then you miss them. That's the connotation I have for lehitraot. Since Efer will always be in our hearts and in our minds, when we say goodbye, see you later, it could mean many things, but if anything, it means see you again soon in our hearts and minds. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacob and Adam. I'm not going to tell any jokes, so I hope that's okay. He was known by many names. Tibor, growing up in Hungary. Ephraim in Israel. Ephra for short, as you heard Adam say. Frank here in America. But to put it simply, we can call and should call and will call forever Frank a gute neshama, a gentle soul, a kind-hearted man, a mensch, a true gentleman, funny and joking, loyal and loving, humble. He lived life the right way, a hard-working man that took pride in a good job and greeted everyone with a smile, positive, always optimistic and appreciative, a Holocaust survivor that lived each day with gratitude. He was wise. He'd say, you get old fast, but wise too slow. Not for Frank. He was smart and logical. And we all know the most important thing in his life was family, and he lived for you. His grandson David, for a high school project a few years ago, was tasked with selecting the person that most inspires him in life. And I think we all could guess who David wrote about. And I'd like to just share a couple of quotes from David. I learned so many lessons from my grandpa, like not putting yourself first, but to go out of your way to help others. One story my grandfather told me from a young age was how he traded a pack of cigarettes that he found for some salami since he didn't smoke. This was, of course, during the time of the Holocaust, when Frank and his sister were in the ghetto in Budapest. After trading his cigarettes that he found for salami, he brought the salami to share with his sister because all they had was a stale half slice of bread that they were given each day. As a young boy, I asked my grandfather, I thought your favorite food was salami. You must have been starving. How come you didn't just immediately gobble it all up for yourself? He replied that we indeed were starving, but taking care of your family, even when it might be difficult for you, is one of the most important things you can do in life. For so many weeks, he lived in horrible conditions with his sister in the ghetto until the Russians liberated. I would just look at awe at him. How could anyone see anything to be grateful in a story with so much loss and suffering? He taught me that no matter how bad a situation is, as long as you're breathing, there is something to be thankful for, and to never take anything for granted. And David added, when he came to America, he worked hard to support my mother and Aunt Lori, overcoming the difficulties of being an immigrant. He was able to adapt to new situations. He taught me that hard work and dedication is the key to success, to be grateful, happy, and appreciative, and he would always get emotional when we were together. My grandfather is the person that I looked up to most in life, my inspiration, the one who has made the most positive impact on me. Thank you, David. Born and raised in Budapest, Frank actually left a gift for this family and for the world. He recorded in writing his own testimony, a memoir and history of his life, focusing on his youth, on surviving the Nazis, his aliyah to Israel, and building the country. And I will also add, that's the first half of the memoir. The family shared it with me. The second half is his sort of outlook on life, what is right in the world and what is wrong with the world, and his advice to the entire world. So it's a really very special treasure. But I'd like to begin by quoting Frank with his own words. I was 8 years old when World War II started. When I was 14 and my sister was 11, we lost our parents, our relatives, and everything that we had. We experienced things that we didn't learn in school, the little schooling that he had, and that our parents never taught us. We were rounded up in October 1944, sent to houses identified by the Yellow Star of David, and we all stayed in a laundry room. All our belongings were taken from us, never to get them back again. Then the police came in the middle of the night. This was when our parents were still with us, but they took our parents. My mother told me to take care of my sister and never leave her alone. I kept my promise all my life. We got a kiss and a hug. That was the last time we ever saw them. One day a new roundup happened. I was 14 years old. Anyone 14 and over would be sent straight to the concentration camps. My sister, though, was only 11, and she would be sent to the ghetto. As we were separated in our own lines, my sister screamed out. Afraid to leave my group, I didn't know what to do, but I took a chance and ran right next to her and stood in the line to the ghetto. This likely saved my life. I was sent to the ghetto, not the camps. After surviving in the ghetto and being liberated by the Russians, we decided to go to Palestine, leaving Hungary via train to Vienna, U.S. Army trucks to Germany. The Americans provided us food, clothes, and games, waiting for the British government to grant permission for the first legal aliyah to Israel, of which Frank was a part. On May 1st, 1946, he arrived in Israel, taken straight to Kibbutz Nan, and there he would meet his beloved Hannah. She was a young person in the German group, and he hung out with the Hungarians. Frank recalled happy times there, playing soccer, dancing, playing cards, ping pong, working the land, and preparing for the war. Without any uniforms, using their own clothes and shoes, and a rifle smuggled from some unknown country, Frank fought in the War of Independence for Israel and the establishment of the modern state. He remembered the military marches years later he learned from them and would often put on a show for the family. They were married in Tel Aviv in 1958. They decided to try and live the American dream after more than a decade each in Israel. They came to the States on a cruise ship, sponsored by Hannah's family already here in Cleveland. On October 3rd, 1963, they arrived in the States, and Michelle was born not soon later here in Cleveland. Frank, though, didn't know English. He knew so many other languages. He got a job first in the steel business and then became a fitter-welder, drafting, pipe fitting, and a foreman, making railing, a highly valued employee, a big asset known for his hard work, craftsmanship, physical strength. No big job could be done without him. After only 6 years in the States, he bought his home on Bayard in South Euclid, a very proud homeowner, living the American dream. And they were a great pair, Frank and Hannah. They loved one another. They admired each other. He was her driver. They had meager beginnings. When they were in Israel, Shabbos dinner was a hard-boiled egg and tea, and he'd get Hannah a gladiola flower. At Michelle and Adam's wedding, Frank gave the father of the bride speech and shared these words about his love, a model for all. Quote, this is what your dad said. I married a woman who worried about me when I was sick or came home late. She cheered me up when I had a bad day. I haven't felt that caring since my parents passed away. It's nice to have someone with you always who will help you and love you. A person who will always stay with you because a wedding commitment is not just for today or tomorrow, but forever. A wonderful father, Frank raised his girls with love. You told me about special trips to Cedar Point and Geauga Lake. Michelle, you told me your dad was always there, always so wise and helpful. Laura, you shared that as a child you were in a bad car accident that required you to be in the hospital for multiple months. Mom and Dad would visit every day, of course, after your father worked, because your mom waited for him to drive her to the hospital. And you told me that when you were home, your dad would literally carry you from room to room. You told me you would always fall asleep easier and faster when you heard your father's footsteps in the hall, because when Dad was home, you knew you were safe. You were very close. You lived together. You'd go bowling together, grocery shopping together. He'd write his shopping list in Hungarian, and you learned how to translate it. You learned his own language. Every Friday growing up, Dad would buy a newspaper for himself and candy for you that he hid. He had quite the sweet tooth that he shared with you, Laurie. And Laurie, you wrote these words for me to share about your dad. You are in my heart. You are in my soul. You're in my mind, my DNA. You will always be the patriarch of this family. The best grandfather, we already heard it from Jacob and from David. He loved going to your concerts when you're growing up and all the school functions. He shept nachas and kveld. He loved you so much, the light of his life, and loved just being with you. And though if you knew Frank in the last number of years, he could barely walk. He seemed very frail, not sure what was happening. But when music started playing, he was a graceful dancer. He exhibited crazy agility playing soccer with the boys, even though, again, he could barely move any other time. And the grandkids shared with me that you enjoyed just sitting with him. He would tell you stories. You'd take walks together. You'd encourage him to exercise. You watched Lawrence Welk and Carol Burnett together with him. And of course, whenever music started, he would sing and clap, get up and dance. You always loved his company. And you both shared with me that you have your own language together with his broken English. Frank, in later years, after working, delivered Meals on Wheels, participated in Cafe Europa with the other Holocaust survivors in Cleveland. And he loved just things that made him happy and smile. Summer was his favorite season, the warmth and the sun. A proud Jew. It was a part of his soul, identity, and spirit. He loved reading the newspaper, watching the news. He was handsome. He liked to look good and make sure his hair was just right. He had his music and dancing circuits. The Beechwood Pool, Legacy Village, he was known at each venue. He'd get up and dance, the bands would love him and literally call him out and encourage and cheer on Frank every time. I like to share the closing words of his personal testimony, I think, as a way to sort of close my remarks this morning. Quote, "The goal in life is to learn how to live in peace. It's a shame more people don't turn their negative energy into positive goals. A proud Jew," this is my aside, "a proud Jew, he could not understand why there was so much hate in this world, and particularly Jew hatred and anti-Semitism. And he wrote this, "If someone can do something better than you, don't be jealous of them, don't hate them or kill them, but learn from them." He ends with these words, "Today is Friday evening. Tears come to my eyes when I see that my children have food to eat. My children have clothes to wear. My children live in a warm home. They have parents that would sacrifice anything for them in order for them to have a good life. We didn't have this luxury. I'm now just realizing what I lost in my life. We miss the kisses from my mother, the hugs from my father. We don't know how or where they were killed by the Nazis. We couldn't bury them or put flowers by their headstones. But every Friday night, when I light the Shabbos candles, I think about them. And when I do, the flame of the candles burn for their memory. I have to stop writing because the tears are filling my eyes and I can't see the letters anymore." Frank carried on his parents' memory. He shared love with each and every one of you as family, and you gave him love, and you gave him light, and you'll carry him on. The family is grateful to the staff at Montefiore Maltz Hospice for their loving care and support for Frank, the patriarch of this family. Frank will be missed by family and friends. He's returned home in peace. We will remember his smile, his dancing, his life, and his spirit. May his name always bring blessings, and we say, Amen. We'll rise now as Cantor recites the memorial prayer. Let's see.
Elo eslichot chanun verachum erech apayim erech chesed hamsei chaparat pesha v'hakravat yasham nucha nechona tachat kanfei hashchina v'malot kedoshim utarim kezohar arakiya mazhirim et nishmat Ephraim ben Moshe v'Uliana shelach le'olamo Anna barachamim zocher lo letova kol zechuyotav et tzidkotav be'aretzot hachayim uftach lo sharet tzedek ve'ora sharei chemla v'chanina Beseita knafech hastirehu le'alamim Utror bitror hachayim et nishmato Adonai hu nachalato Ve'yanuach b'shalom al mishkavo Ve'nomar Amen.
Exalting, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure, to the soul of Ephraim, Frank, Ephra, Tibor, who has gone to his eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that our loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May he merit the reward for living life the right way, with kindness, with love, with positivity, with joy. May his soul be bound up in the bond of eternal life, and may he rest in peace. And we say, Amen. Please be seated. Following the service, interment will follow at Mount Olive Cemetery. That's where the burial will be. And the family will be sitting Shiva at the home of Michelle and Adam Levine, 7374 on Winchester Drive in Solon, following the burial today until 7 p.m., and then tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday from 2 to 4 and 7 to 9, with an evening minyan Wednesday and Thursday night at 7 p.m. Those who would like to contribute in Frank's memory can do so to the ADL or the Dementia Society of America.
Those who are pallbearers to step forward. Pallbearers to step forward. Pallbearers, if you go with this gentleman right here. Please rise. It's down the hall to the left. Second.